Welcome into the DNVR Gaming Podcast, brought to you by WGT Golf. Remember to download it totally for free today at dnvrgolf.com. I'm your host, Drew Kreisman. With me, as always, are AJ and Rudo from the DNVR Avalanche crew. But joining us also from that crew, Evan Rowell, to discuss, because he has joined the next generation. We are dinosaur stand. Well, maybe not you PC people, us console gamers out there who have not yet joined the next generation are left in the dust now at this point. You, Evan, have joined the next generation, also the best Star Trek, by the way. And you have to answer, you had to come on here and answer the question on everyone's mind, which is, of course, have you tried to vape through it? And if so, do you have any safety tips?
I have not. And I got what somebody asked me about the ping pong too. I have not tried that either. I think Guy asked me about that, but no, I have not tried either. I don't want to wreck that thing. It's not a cheap thing.
The other question that I would have is, do you feel guilty for having it and not knowing that you owning one means some poor little kid is not going to have it for Christmas? What is your level of guilt?
My level of guilt is zero, especially after reading about all the bots. That's who they should be mad at, is all those people buying it to resale. But I don't feel bad at all. I worked for this money. I can spend it how I want. I'm a grown man.
That counts, right?
Yeah. She hasn't touched it yet, and I don't want her to touch it. But yeah, I mean, if that lady's kid was going to get a $500 console, then pretty sure that kid's going to be just fine this Christmas getting whatever the heck else he gets.
Kid's got it made. So what have you actually been doing? If you haven't been vaping into it or ping-ponging it, what is it one does with an Xbox Series X?
Well, you play it. You know, they didn't focus, because the whole thing about the Xbox One was, it does everything. And then this time they're like, if that didn't work, we're not going to shove a Kinect with it. We're going to you just play games on this thing. So yeah, I've been playing games. I've been using Game Pass to play a little bit of everything. The problem with Xbox is they were clearly banking on Halo Infinite being ready, because beyond that, there's not like a game that you absolutely need to play. It's just a lot of third-party stuff that, and smaller games that you can play. So playing Watch Dogs, Tetris Effect, things like that. Just a lot of different games. And then also the upgrades. Forza Horizon 4 looks awesome on Series X. And yeah, everything looks way better. And I'm coming from, and I know you guys talked about it last week with, they had the half step last generation, where if you had a 1X, I would imagine you're not going to see like a huge difference, but I had a day one Xbox One. So to go from that to Series X is massive. Just like I imagine a base PS4 to a PS5 would be a pretty big jump. So to me, it's massive, but yeah, it's just missing that killer app, because everything else is awesome. I saw that meme where I can't text you back anymore because games don't have loading screens anymore. So, but it's awesome.
Straight up,
I'm really enjoying it, and it hasn't burned up or anything. Because I know if you buy something, if you're a launch person, there's always the risk of issues, and that's just the reality of everything.
So it does, you would say, it does look that much better.
Oh yeah, and I admittedly have a nice TV where I had a bunch of gift cards last year and bought a nice 4K, a TV that can do 4K and 120 frames. So I can notice the difference big time. Whereas I think obviously if you're playing on a TV that's a lot of people, the reality is a lot of people don't have 4K TVs still.
Yeah, peasant TV.
Yeah. Or you're not going to see it. You're going to probably see an upgrade, but it's not going to be a huge difference. But having a TV that can do that, it made the difference more noticeable. And now I understand why PC people are like 30 frames per second. This is ridiculous, because going from 30 to 120 in Call of Duty was like, this is insane.
Life-changing.
I can never go back.
Kind of an adjustment for the eyes too, because all of a sudden it's so much smoother where you're like,
Yeah.
It's a little weird. Kind of making
Your brain is used to doing all of that adjusting and like making up for the ground that it doesn't have.
Why are all of these people made out of butter? I don't understand.
I now, because playing 30 for so long and now seeing that, I don't understand the people that are like, I don't see the difference in frames. Like, there's no difference from 30 to 60 for me, where I'm like, it's very noticeable. Like, it is smooth as hell.
AJ, were you laughing earlier at the notion that here in the year 2020, very quickly moving into 2021, the next generation of gaming has arrived, and one of the first two games that Evan mentioned playing a lot was Tetris?
I mean, that and the fact that we're 2 days away. We're 2 days away from the next WoW expansion launch.
Yeah.
So 2020 is still very 2000.
Nothing has changed. Yeah.
Well, and I'm still playing the old Halo games on Master Chief, so it's like,
yeah, me too. So
I'm thinking about downloading Fusion Frenzy too. That's backwards compatible. That game's what, 18 years old, 15 years old, something like that. So
we were just talking about that the other day. Fall Guys.
Yeah. Similar kind of games in a little bit of ways, for sure.
I wish they could make that game online, because that would be such a popular game to just have parties on. But still, you have to have somebody next to you to play it. So, but yeah, that's the problem, is that I've upgraded the new system and I have no regrets. But the reality is that there's not like a brand new exclusive that you need to have. So that's what you got to deal with.
Why Xbox specifically over PS5?
Well, I have a PS4. I bought it like a few years after I got my Xbox, but all my friends are on Xbox. Even though it sounds like the PS5 controller is awesome, I much prefer the Xbox controller. I'm actually glad the PS5 made some changes, because I don't really like the PS4 controller at all. And also just
I hate it with passion.
Yeah. Yeah. And the PS5 controller, I've actually read that the PS5 controller is probably the most next-gen thing out there because of the way the triggers work. But I love the Xbox controller. My friends are on there. And then, I like the achievement system. I have a lot banked up, and also the UI. So it's just more, really a lot of what gaming comes down to is if you're playing with friends, you want to be, it matters less now, I guess, because a lot of things are going cross-platform. But for me, I prefer the Xbox. But I would like to get a PS5 eventually. I just had to figure out where to fit that thing, because it's massive.
So do you feel a killer app on the horizon? Is there something, you mentioned Halo Infinite. I know people have been scared about that. We're going to talk more Halo here in a bit. I'm always excited for new Halo, but I'll admit the trailers have underwhelmed me as well. Is there anything that you're thinking, well, okay, I have the killer app now, but by the time this comes out, that'll be a lost memory?
That's the thing, is that no one really knows. They have some like smaller games coming out. I think they're aligned with Cyberpunk, so I think they're trying to do the Sony thing where Sony, what was it, like Destiny was basically all marketed on PS4, whereas I think the standard person who doesn't pay attention to this stuff was like, oh, it's only on PS4. So I think they're trying to market with Cyberpunk to be that type of thing, but you can get that anywhere. So beyond that, I mean, and the reality, we're also living in a weird time where video game development is probably just a nightmare right now, working from home. So no one knows what's going on with Halo Infinite. Fable got announced, but that could be years off, things like that. And then they bought all these studios, but they're just busy making games. So that's the reality of it, is it's a third-party system right now with, the smaller games that you play on, Game Pass is their biggest selling point, which I have, and it sounds like, I think the statistic was 70% of Xbox players have Game Pass, which makes sense to me, because if I'm going to play all those games, I'm not going to buy a bunch of new games for $60.
So then the other one is just, what game has been most improved by the experience? You mentioned a couple really quick. Forza. What do you feel like? gets the most out of being played now on the next generation console?
So I haven't tried Gears 5 because I've never been a huge Gears guy, but it sounds like they made some major upgrades to that.
Sucked.
Gears 5. Is anybody here a Gears person? Were you, AJ? Were you into the original trilogy?
I've played all of them, man.
Yeah.
I didn't spend a lot of time doing like the multiplayer and the horde mode and all that. Like I didn't spend very much time on that, but I've played through all the campaigns with a group of friends. And Gears 5 was like just a directionless piece of garbage.
Mm-hmm. I heard it's good.
Just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but I've also just never been a Gears fan. I really just want to play it to like check out the technical, I guess, part of it where it's smooth and looks great. But yeah, Forza Horizon 4 going from the OG Xbox One, and I'm not normally a racing guy, so the how smooth it is now, it looks awesome. Watch Dogs looks great. It's only 30 frames, but it looks great. The problem is the game is like broken because Ubisoft can't release completed games, it seems like.
Well, they're too busy getting swatted at work.
Yeah. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I saw, and my friends have gotten Valhalla and playing that, but I've never been an Assassin's Creed guy. I've played one of them and wasn't super into it. So,
which one was it?
I played Black Flag, the pirate one,
okay.
Like where you're on boats. But
yeah, it's funny because that's like that's the probably the most different,
unique
of all of them, outside of Unity, which was just a broken heap of a game.
Well, the thing about Assassin's Creed games now is they're like not even anything close to how they started out to be, because it's not now it's like Vikings when what did they start out to be, like stealth games. I remember my buddy in college playing the first one back in the day. I was like, oh, this is pretty slow. But I've been playing a lot of that. It's funny I mentioned Tetris Effect because I think it's like a Switch game that just got brought over to Xbox, and it actually looks awesome. I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying that. And I am going to boot into Doom Eternal tonight because I didn't play that this year. I feel like I owe Brandon that because he's a big Doom guy.
You got to play Doom or Lasagna.
Right. Doom or Lasagna? Yeah, I'll find out tonight which one they're talking about.
My question for someone who actually has a new console is how much can they improve? Because the things you're talking about, no load times, 4K graphics, are we not just one step away from these being PCs at this point?
No, we definitely are. We're at the point now where it's like any improvement now is more like a quality of life improvement, because graphics wise, you're going to see small improvements, but you also have to have a TV that can play it, and most people aren't going to have that. Load times have gone away, frames much better. So you're essentially at the point where, the next console, which, whatever, 6 or 7 years down the line, you might as well just get a PC at that point, which I've never been a PC guy, but it might get to that point eventually, but that's where everything's headed.
Okay.
It's going to be really interesting to see what they even try to do, like how you innovate from here. If everyone will just start pouring resources into other things, if there won't even be that many more console generations, and it's just like, okay, we'll finally just make VR work, or we'll, whatever else. Because how many console generations can there be? At some point, coming out with a new one rather than just an update.
I guess that's the thing that the big three console makers haven't really dipped their toes into is proper VR, right? Like, you have some stupid things like Xbox Kinect and Sony's whatever Play, but they haven't developed eye masks or anything like that like some other companies have. So maybe you're right.
It feels like people keep telling us that VR is the next step my entire life.
Yeah, same, but
I
mean,
haven't tried
when-
VR, but I would imagine like you can probably only last like an hour, 2 hours playing VR before you just get sick. That would be my thought. Like,
I last like 14 seconds before I get sick.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know about that part of it. I haven't been able to try it either, but I have heard some really good things about some of the most recent ones. In fact, Half-Life Alyx is getting rave reviews and got nominated for a bunch of awards and stuff. And Half-Life has, such a reputation that it definitely gives me pause and makes me go, well, if someone handed it to me, I would definitely play it. I'm not going to invest, however many hundreds of dollars it takes to get into VR and, get the right one and do all of that. But if I was in a room and someone was like, hey, I've got VR and Half-Life Alyx, I'd be like, ooh, can I try that out and see if I get sick? Because it's going to be worth it. Like, I'll find out one way or the other.
I mean, I'm pretty confident I wouldn't get sick, but I also don't trust the quality that's out there right now. And that's why I'd be curious to see if one of the big three would be willing to take the plunge just by the quality of the product, and particularly if Nintendo was willing to do it. They're a company that has been extremely creative on the console side already. So if they were willing to do it, something's probably going to be interesting about it, I guess. But
I think all three of the big gaming companies are heading in different directions. Whereas PlayStation is exclusives. This is where you can play our games.
Yeah.
Microsoft is like, games are on PC too. Just play wherever you want, but get Game Pass because that's probably where they're making most of their money. And then Nintendo just does their own thing. So it's interesting. Like the whole console war thing doesn't make sense to me just because it's like, they're all doing different things. I don't even know, like Microsoft, I don't even think cares about this stuff anymore. And Nintendo obviously doesn't because they just do whatever they want to do.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to be nice to Nintendo coming off a week in which they shut down community-run tournaments.
Yeah, that wasn't great. But I mean, I think that's also part of it is Nintendo is less of a console producer and more of a first-party developer as far as where they make their money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's their big problem for years has been the lack of third-party buy-in. It's one reason why you get, they're celebrating. Oh, look at we're getting whatever old ass game that the rest of the consoles have had for 5 years.
Yeah,
and they're like, it's coming to Nintendo, and you're like,
okay.
Neat, guys.
Like, the only one who cares about this is that poor kid who's only allowed to pick one console, picked the Nintendo one, and then watched his friends play all those games. That's it. Otherwise, the vast majority of adults that I know, if they're serious enough about gaming, they just buy the other consoles.
Yeah. Very few people with the money to burn have just a Nintendo console.
Yeah. Yeah,
they started that decades ago with the Game Boy. It's almost just like, and all the handhelds that they've had. It's just like you almost think of Nintendo as another thing that you game on that's separate from whatever your like big expensive your PlayStation, your Xbox, your PC thing is. And then you've got your Nintendo.
Well, that's why the Wii was so popular because it was like, well, you have an Xbox or you have a PlayStation, but everyone had a Wii. Like it was in everyone's house because it was just different.
And like people bought it and it came with Wii Sports and people didn't have to invest beyond that.
Yep.
And so it was like, I couldn't tell you, like I was living with my girlfriend at the time when that was a thing. And her mom used to play, her mom never played a video game in her life. Until we got really drunk and played Harry Potter one time, and then that opened everything up to really weird nights. And she played the shit out of Wii bowling. She's the best Wii bowler I've ever met. Like she was unbelievable at Wii bowling, and all she ever wanted to do every weekend, she was like, "No, you guys should just come over and we'll give you booze and we'll play Wii bowling." And I was like, free booze, video games, like hanging out with your parents, but this is, you know, and then we would just invite all of our friends over, and that was a thing.
Yeah. And going back to the generation thing, you know, as much as we talk about consoles improving, like games really aren't, like, other than these graphical enhancements, like games, there's no like groundbreaking game that's have come out in like the last 5 years. They're all just improving on what they've been doing for years. And really the change now is probably storytelling. Like they're just telling stories better, and games are getting bigger, but they're not like changing in a huge way. It's just they're getting bigger and more open world.
Turns out you only have so many buttons to push at the end of the day.
Yeah. So
Right. All right. Any final questions for Evan on the next generation before we move into our other main topic of the day?
Well, Drew, I know you want a PS5, obviously.
Yeah.
And are you guys planning on jumping in at all at any point, or are you just going to wait it out? I know you guys are mostly PC guys.
Maybe someday. I'm
a lot less likely now knowing that MLB The Show is coming to PC. I'll put it that way.
Honestly, same thing. The only thing that pushes me towards a PS5 is the fact that they are serious about their exclusives and that there are enough there where that's intriguing to me. But between Game Pass, which basically eliminates the need for an Xbox whatsoever for a PC gamer, and MLB The Show coming to PC, it really helps me out quite a bit. Like,
yeah, I think it's funny when PlayStation people are like, the people that fight over this stuff are like, oh, well, I can play that on PC. I can just Game Pass. And it's like, do you think Microsoft cares? Like, they get your money either way. Like, it's fine by them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as a console developer, they should care, but I think that was to be honest, opening it up like that, it's just good business.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the money that they are now making from the PC market, Sony isn't.
Yeah. And I think Sony's slowly dipping into it, but we'll see. But I think Microsoft cares. Obviously, they bought up all these studios. It's just, it's going to take, 2 or 3 years now until we can see what they make of it.
Sony needs to actually allow people to buy its console. That'd be a good place to start.
Yeah, that's obviously the biggest problem, right? Like, I would actually, because my PS4 is on its last legs, I'd probably have a PS5 right now if it was easy enough to just go out and get. I wasn't planning on getting one at launch. I was going to wait a little bit, but that I was telling these guys last week, my PS4 crashed playing a PlayStation 2 game last week. It overheated, and I was just like, okay, it's time to end. And we talked about the controllers. I've got one controller. It's completely falling apart. And I keep losing at MLB The Show because of it. And I want to throw that thing through the wall, which is going to make it worse. And so it's just like, it's time to move on, but I can't because they botched this thing. And I have no idea when there's going to be any available. But just to Cygnus's point, in the comments, Horizon Zero Dawn, Final Fantasy, God of War, stuff like that. That's why I get PlayStations, and I can live without.
I can't believe God of War is
Spider-Man, Miles Morales,
as good as it did.
Yeah.
Because I played the first God of War when it came out, and I was like, so this is like bad version of Devil May Cry and Zelda and a couple of other different games, but with like Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's about it. And I thought it was really, really mediocre. And then it got a lot better from there. And it was like, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one game I haven't played a ton of my PS4, and I played some of the exclusives like Spider-Man because that was a lot of fun, but I do want to play Ghosts because I think that's a little bit different. And I like the samurai aspect of it. But I'm also with a base PS4 where I think all these new games would literally blow up my PS4 because it starts to chug hardcore.
Those Souls games, I've seen Demon Souls running on PS5 and stuff, and I'm like, yep, that would kill my. There's like I couldn't even launch. I couldn't boot that up. It would die. All right.
Interesting games. the throwback to being really, really, really hard for the sake of being really, really hard. It's interesting that the market has like that there were enough people that just wanted to get their ass kicked by a video game throughout the whole thing.
Right.
That they could make multiple of those games. I was definitely surprised about that.
Yeah.
Although it was nice because that meant we got another Battletoads, which was nowhere near as difficult. And
yeah, that game was fun, but I did not try it on the hardest mode.
We tried it on the second hardest difficulty because I played it with 2 other people. And we tried it on the second hardest difficulty, one of whom had just beaten the old school Battletoads like the week before. And we
cruised
pretty straight up. Yeah. There were not a lot of hard parts to it.
All right, fellas, let's do the arguing about Halo portion of the podcast.
Now we're going to fight
down
the chat. All right.
Is that what we're going to do today? We're going to fight?
Well, I feel like several of us, I have no idea where Evan sits on this one, but I feel like the rest of us are pretty in.
Yeah, we're going to fight with the chat. All 4 of us are going to fight Cygnus.
So
Kale's in here talking about Halo 3 too.
True.
So we had this debate. First, it started in our Slack, our staff Slack, right? And just talking Halo like anyone would. And suddenly we found out that apparently there are people out there who think that Halo Reach or Halo 3 are the best Halos. We call these people wrong people. These are wrong people who are wrong about things, and they're wrong. So we put out a little poll and found out the objective truth, which of course matches up with the objective truth. Halo 2 is the best Halo. But I am actually still blown away that on our poll here that we put out, Halo 3 came in second. I'm still kind of blown away by that. But where is it? The original Halo Combat Evolved at third with 19% of the vote. Halo Reach with 11.6%. So wasn't quite as popular as some people thought that maybe it would turn out to be.
No.
Michael.
I truly believe there's a case to be made for Halo 2 being the greatest video game of all time. Like, it's not close.
Oh boy.
Yeah, now
AJ's got some words here.
All right, AJ.
I love Halo 2, man. I love it. It's embedded deep within my heart and soul. But the greatest game of all time. Have you played that campaign recently?
Yeah.
It's not great, dude. It's not great. It's got a lot of problems.
I'm sorry, but you don't play Halo 2 for the campaign.
I love the Halo 2 campaign. I love the Halo 2 campaign.
I love the campaign too, but I went back and played it recently, and I was like,
I mean, yeah, but it's not the greatest game of all time because of the campaign. There's plenty of games with better campaign. Pick any Zelda game that isn't Wind Waker, and you're good on the campaign over Halo. But that game, not only did it like millions of people around the world love it, it completely revolutionized the multiplayer industry
on consoles.
Yeah, fair. You had stuff like StarCraft on PC.
Matchmaking on the PC had already been a big thing in shooters. You already had Unreal Tournament. You had Quake. You had things that were around before that.
Back then, also, you couldn't get a decent PC that could run anything like that for less than like $1,500.
Halo 2's brilliance was that it took an established system that was already the PC gaming experience, and it brought it to consoles, and that's where it made it legendary. That's where the greatest game of all time. No, but certainly a cultural touchstone. Absolutely, like a massive impact on the broad scope of video games. You know, no longer were kids getting shoved in lockers because they played Halo 2, right? Like you played Halo 2? Great. What's your gamer tag? Let's go home and play later. and let's decide this on lockout.
Mm-hmm. One-on-one lockout.
it would. I mean, I'm closer to Rudo, I think, on this because it is one of my top 10 like personal favorite games of all time.
Mine too, but come on.
Well, and like I said, if you're talking about like the downside being its campaign, I'm like, that was one of my favorite things about it. Actually, it totally changed me around as somebody who was at the time a snob about storytelling and video games, and I looked down on shooters because I was like, I play role-playing games and they tell stories that are long and epic and important, and they think about ideas, and you people over there play point and shoot games and you kill the bad guy, and you're dumb game, and I'm smart game. And then I played, and Halo 1 I think really started to turn me around on that. But Halo 2 was when, and it's presented a little more like those types. It's more cinematic. They take you out of the first-person perspective, right? And they put you in the heels of the bad guy, which I was like, this is fascinating. And so for me, like, it totally changed my mind about like that entire genre of game, or really anything that wasn't an RPG. Video games' ability to tell stories in a lot of different ways and have it be compelling and awesome. So, and then on top of that, however many thousands of hours I sunk into the multiplayer like everybody else did. So, and it was like, how many games in history where the next one comes out and it's still pretty good. I know a lot of people were disappointed by it, but apparently a lot of people still love it. And people are still going back to play the multiplayer on Halo 2. Because we just love those maps and the way it was so perfectly balanced in all those places. It's just, to this day, we've got Halo 2 maps memorized. Like, Halo 2 is GOAT. That's fine. Evan, you have the floor.
So when it comes to ranking Halos, I always I rank, like Rudo said, a lot of people go to the multiplayer. I like to rank the multiplayers and then combined games because I feel like they're very different rankings. Because for me, I always go to Halo 1 multiplayer. And maybe that's nostalgia on my end, but I love the maps, the pistol. I'm a sucker for that pistol that does some work. Halo 2 is right there, and I will actually be the one person maybe in this world that will defend Halo 5's multiplayer because it was awesome. The problem is the campaign was god-awful, and that's what really sank that game. So I'm actually not surprised to see Halo 3 almost come close to Halo 2 because that game is very much loved. If you play Master Chief Collection, that's where you're going to find most people actually playing online is Halo 3. You're going to find a match pretty much instantly. So Reach, I don't have too many memories of Reach, to be honest. I played a lot of the multiplayer and had fun with it, but beyond that, I don't have too many memories. And then Halo 4, I think, is kind of the one that's out there. I think the multiplayer is not that great. Story's decent, but yeah, I think Halo 2 had the best of everything.
Well, can we agree that everything after 3 was milking it to a certain extent, though? Because the original trilogy was what Bungie had planned for the series.
Absolutely. There's a reason Bungie was like, we're out. Like, we're walking away from this thing that we created because they didn't want to continue to make it. And Microsoft was like, more. And yeah, exactly. Like, you have... You know how it is. It's business. You have Halo. It's 2020, a new Xbox console just dropped, and what's the thing that Evan's disappointed didn't drop with it? Halo Infinite. Like,
right?
It just has the name recognition after 2 and 3, where it became one of the powerhouse franchises in all of gaming. That's just how it is now. That's how it's going to be moving forward. Even though we all kind of tacitly accept that Halo isn't what it once was, when a new one comes out, we all want to play it.
There's always the hope that it gets it back. Because 343's got to earn it, whereas Bungie can do whatever they want.
Even if it's not that great, you're still sitting down and you're like, I'm in my 30s and I'm experiencing a new Halo.
I'm the chief again.
We've been doing the Mandalorian watches over on the DNVR watches podcast thing, and so we've been talking. Star Wars has this same problem, right? Where you're like, it almost would feel like a waste to, but also where it would feel like a waste to not do it. It's such a big and interesting universe. You want to do more in it. There's plenty more good that could come from the Halo universe. That's why every time there's a new one, we sit down and we go, this could be awesome. It might not be. It probably won't be. It hasn't been for a while. I don't know if anyone did ODST, but it's stuff like that where it's like, if you do go in too far of a different direction, and it's like Master Chief isn't in this, and then all of a sudden you start alienating people. But it's too bad. I almost wish they could do like a hard reboot on Halo. Like this is Halo.
It's funny because there are some similarities.
You're not Master Chief.
And sorry, Drew, you're lagging a little bit. Halo and the Star Wars universe. Not a lot of people know about the extended Halo universe lore. I know quite a bit about it. And for a very long time, Master Chief was supposed to be the last Spartan that was in existence. And that caused serious problems because they couldn't just be like, oh, well, now he gets to fight other Spartans in the campaign side of things, until they were like, you know what, screw the extended lore. There are just other Spartans again. It's fine.
Here's our canon. Watch us rip it to shreds.
Yeah, exactly. But to Drew's point, like, they kind of painted themselves into a corner, right? Where it's like, all right, we have to destroy this to get ourselves out of this, and then maybe they can make it better.
Yeah. That's why, when I saw the Halo Infinite gameplay reveal, I was actually excited because I was like, okay, they're going a little bit back, but they're also going open world. They're trying like a whole new different thing here. And then you look on the internet and people are upset about a lot of different things. So people were so upset by Halo 5 and how quick it was, whereas old Halo is not quick. So they tried to reel it back in, and they still upset everybody. And then obviously the graphics thing was a whole other thing with the meme guy that was out there that everyone got on the screenshot. But I mean, Microsoft's going to milk it as long as they can, because as much as people thought Halo 5 was a disappointment, I think it still sold like 15 million copies. So people still buy this stuff. So they're going to keep going as long as they can. It's just, if 343 really bombs this time, then what does Microsoft do? Like, I don't know how you continue with this. If you're going to keep this franchise going, you have to maybe you got to send it to somebody else. You bought all these studios. Maybe somebody else needs to take over Halo if you're really going to continue it.
Yeah, and I guess we'll have to have Michael and Ben on sometime to explain why Halo Reach is best Halo, because apparently no one.
We don't need to waste that time.
Yeah,
Ben's entire argument was about the Forge and how you could go and play custom games, and that the community did all that stuff. And once again, it's like, oh, so you finally added in a modding community, like. Neat. I mean, yes, it makes games better.
Even Halo 3 had an early version of the Forge. Like,
yeah, but I mean, the Halo Reach's story is awesome, and it's really fun to play through. It's the same thing as Rogue One, where it's like a really fun, like, side story in the universe that fills in some gaps that they allude to in the main series. It's awesome. I really like Halo Reach. It's a lot of fun. It's cool to play with friends. It's a good game. Is it the best Halo? No.
Well, you keep Kurt Schilling away from anything Halo. I ain't having nothing to do with that. All right.
Kurt Schilling's the one game Kurt Schilling's failed company made was actually pretty good.
Is it getting remade?
Yeah, it is. It was actually like a decent little game. It just went bankrupt. Yeah. And Kurt Schilling's a huge douchebag.
Right.
Part of the part that made Halo 2 so great was the maps online, because they've never recreated that. Those maps are still iconic, And
Yeah.
I think the company that made those maps is now like has moved on to make other like they made a bunch of Call of Duty maps. Like they still make money just based off of what they did on Halo 2.
I mean, ask any old school Halo 2 player about, like Lockout or Zanzibar.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, could still run those maps in my sleep.
Yep.
Like,
Seriously, spawn on the beach in Zanzibar. Make a run immediately for the mid-map sniper on the left side where you got to go through the tunnels, and you're just
Yep.
like going for that, man. Like that's a big part of it.
Yeah. It's funny because we were playing Halo 1 the other night online, and my friend who hadn't played it since the LAN days popped on and he goes, "Where's the sprint button?" And we just laughed at him like, "You're in trouble." They don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah, well, and I would say one of the most annoying things that Halo introduced to gaming was that regen system. I preferred health packs. Health packs because it was strategy, which Halo 1 has still. And you go in and you play it, and you're like, you have to know where they are. You kind of have to plan around it. There's no like dramatic like standoff between two people where both kind of agree where they're like, whoa, that was really close, but we're both going to hide for a few seconds. And then we're going to come back full health and we're going to try it again.
I mean,
like there were consequences for being bad.
Halo did at least the early Halos balanced it a little bit better, I think, until Call of Duty got their hands on it and we're like, all right, if you hit for 2 seconds, you're back to full health. It's fine. Just go.
Yeah, you were in danger if you heard beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
Like, in Halo 2, you were in danger.
You caused a certain amount of dread.
It's not exactly Sonic's drowning music, but it's close in terms of causing anxiety.
Yeah. Then at that point, you hear that music, you're just jumping, hoping that they miss. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're like jumping and you're crouching and you're like trying to stick all over and you're like, don't run in straight lines.
Serpentine motion.
That's right.
You get to that level where the play is actually to just run into the wall because they won't expect you to do that. Because they're trying to lead you.
We'll never expect this. I'm going to corner myself. Those were the days. It's taking me back. All right. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it on the Halo front, unless anybody had anything else to offer there. Last thing I'll just have, we mostly heard from Evan on what you've been playing lately, but just wanted to go round table to wrap us up here. AJ, what have you been playing lately?
Not a lot.
You've been
doing life stuff.
You've been adulting. Is that what we're supposed to call it?
I did start a game called Iron Danger because it was in last month's Humble Bundle. If you subscribe to that, which you should if you're a serious gamer at all. Even casual gamers should probably get in that. It's fun. It's really interesting combat because it's kind of turn-based type combat, but there's a time rewind system where if you die, you can go back a certain amount of time and you can change up different actions. And it took some getting used to, but once you figure it out, it's actually really cool. And it's a lot of fun because you can try so many different combinations of things where it's kind of cheap because you're like, there's not really consequences to being bad here.
Right.
And, getting good is part of the fun in a lot of games. And it just doesn't really like properly punish you if you make mistakes. But at the same time, it's also like, it could be worse, like this isn't one of those like impossibly difficult games that you're just banging your head against the wall. It's a different idea. It's a different take on combat. The story's kind of meh, but I like it. And, considering it was part of Humble Bundle, it's always nice when you actually get a game you like out of that.
There you go. All right, Rudo, what have you been playing lately?
I've been playing some Fall Guys on stream, catching dubs, avoiding hot dog men for the most part.
Living my life.
Also, as AJ mentioned earlier in the show, Shadowlands drops for WoW in 2 days, so I've been getting geared up for that too.
Getting ready.
Literally and figuratively?
Yeah, both senses.
Nice.
Love it. Yeah, we got to do more Fall Guys. I got to get in on that. I got to get in on the Fall Guys. You can get that's and just play that on my PC, right? I should probably just get that rather than getting it on console. That would probably make it easier.
Either way, it's crossplay. I'm pretty sure. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got to. We got to get
bad
some.
at it. I'm so bad at it.
It was a
I'm
PS Plus
assuming
game
I'm
like 2
going to
months
be.
ago.
Oh, was it?
Pretty
Yeah.
sure it was free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I got it on PS4.
Oh.
That's when I
I'll
grabbed it.
pay for it, damn it, so I can play with you guys. And I'll probably be terrible at it too. But from what I've watched on the streams that Rudo is doing, that the entertainment value is not necessarily derived from being good at the game,
No.
which I appreciate. So we'll be streaming more of that and playing more of that. Got to figure out some other things to stream for you as we get our Twitch channel revved up and going again over the winter. That'll be fun. Evan, are there any other games? I mean, we mostly talked about what you've been playing. Did you want to shout something out?
It's ridiculous that I'm going to say this because I got this new console and I'm playing this game called Planet Coaster. It just came to Game Pass. It's basically Roller Coaster Tycoon in the 2020. It's actually, I was like playing it last night. I was like, oh, this is dumb. And then next thing I look at it, it's 2 a.m. I was playing, just building the stupid roller coasters. So that's a lot of fun. But like I mentioned, I'm going to play Doom Eternal. I think that was nominated for Game of the Year too. And
Yeah.
I liked
Not gonna win.
Well, yeah, it's not going to win, but I liked the first one. So I'm going to pop into this one and see what improvements they made, and then check out what's lasagna.
Cygnus, go get the old healer lady first. Makes the game infinitely easier.
My advice would be to just not start it. Don't put yourself in the line of fire of disappointment.
The first one was okay, although it's 11
Didn't
years
get it in
old now.
Dragon
It probably
Age?
doesn't hold up very well.
I really liked the first Dragon Age. It was good, but it does not hold up well.
All right. Well, there you have it. Getting tips and tricks here on the podcast. Remember those old lines? Anybody ever call in to a tips and tricks line back in the day?
I
Remember
just
those?
bought the official strategy guides from the store. Didn't
Oh,
get
yeah.
the official
Dude,
tip
man.
line.
I'm
much
talking about
self-respect.
I had
early
the Tomb
90s
Raider
before
one.
they even had those, man. Come on. I'm talking about for Wizards and Warriors on the Nintendo Entertainment System where there was a hotline you could call.
I just used the website.
It's the only way to get it.
Cheatscc.com. That's where you get all the cheats.
There's a
The internet didn't
documentary
exist
about
then.
that hotline.
Yeah, I know. There's a series of on Netflix about video games. The High Score. It's really good. It's worth checking out.
It is.
I watched the
Um,
first episode. I got to finish that.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Whoa.
this has been a lot of fun. Always good to talk to Evan. Get you on for more of these for sure. Especially because I think before too long, as you mentioned here, we're going to have to talk about our games of the year. Maybe do our own little game of the year awards, which sounds exactly like something I'm sure AJ really wants to do.
It's a weird year for game of the year.
It really is. I assume did you see the nominees for the Game Awards? Do you guys watch the Game Awards? Are you into it at all? Because I
only
really
watch it
dig
for the
that show.
new announcements. That's really the
Yeah.
only reason.
I saw the nominees, but
Yeah.
Award
Yeah.
ceremonies for industries that just like want to high five themselves are kind of weird. Like
That
I
was
think if
exactly the take I
I think
was
when-
expecting you to have.
we do the Goaties, it's awesome.
Oh, of course, when we do it, it's
But because we have like a really like from a left field take on it.
Right.
With some like traditional stuff, but some fun stuff mixed in. The gaming award, I can't say that I've ever really agreed with very many of them, so I kind of just ignore them a lot of the time.
It's kind of funny because it was just one guy who started the show, and like
Right.
that was a tweet I saw today. He's like, one guy starts a show, and now all of a sudden we just take it for that this is the best games of the year. This is the whole gaming show.
right.
So, yeah, I don't really watch the show. I just pay attention for any new announcements they make because it's like most awards shows.
I actually
Yeah.
find that it's quite a bit different from most award shows, at least so far in its infancy, because I've watched most of them. I think it's a really good show with the way that they put it together and the way that they celebrate video games in general. The fact that they do have a whole bunch of new release trailers and stuff now, but playing the music of the video games, holding the concerts coming out, and some of the musical performances have been really, really fantastic. And that's an element of gaming I feel like almost never gets enough attention. So that they have, the orchestra, they have people come out and perform the stuff from the games. And there's a lot the people there, and there are some of the things that they do, like recognizing games that are for an impact, I think is what they call it, or whatever, like games that are like designed to like teach people how to deal with like certain diseases and stuff like that aren't necessarily your standard video game or whatever. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff about the Game Awards. I'm a fan of it, but I think what we'll do is probably like what AJ was saying, is our own little DNVR version. I'll probably want to get everyone's take on their primary 5 or 6, whatever they nominated for Game of the Year. I'll get everyone's takes on that too. But then for our own award show, we'll do a DNVR gaming style thing where we just pick our own favorite games of the year based on whatever criteria we decide. I think that'll be some fun. So,
Animal Crossing, done.
I was going to say, well, I actually thought about this too, because for the games that have been nominated by the Game Awards for Game of the Year, there's like everybody on staff who's a huge fan of at least one of them. There's like Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's Animal Crossing. There's Doom Eternals. Like we have Brandon on and be the Doom Eternal guy. I could stand for 7 Remake. You could stand for New Horizons. I don't know, Rudo, you got anything that's been nominated for Game of the Year that you're super into?
Shadow.
What are the other ones? No.
That's not nominated for anything.
Ghost of Tsushima was one. And then the Half-Life one you mentioned.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll stand for the Fall Guys Among Us.
There you go. Love it. All right. Well, this has been fun. We will do it again next week. Like we said earlier, make sure you've got WGT Golf downloaded totally for free at DNVRGolf.com. You got to join now. Clubhouse 4 took us a few tries, but we got it open and going. We got weekly weekend tournaments. When you sign up for those, you send us a screenshot of you having participated. You enter for a chance to win some pretty fun and fantastic prizes. Any other final thoughts, gentlemen? Good to go? Peace be among you.
Yo, subscribe to AJ's OnlyFans.
Yeah, I'm in my 30s. I don't use Snapchat.
And on that note, thanks everyone for hanging out, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.